little different than our usual board meetings. First, we've invited all members to come, and we're deferring all ordinary business out to our next meeting so that we can make room for a state of the city, a presentation from our Des Moines Mayor, Matt Pina, who's joined us today with some of the other council here with him as well. And I know communication's been hard for us. We've been Zooming it, and that's what we're doing tonight. So we'll do the best we can to get through it. And maybe this is the first Zoom meeting for this city or State of the City presentation as well. But we're all in this together, right? That's what they say. We have talked about making this an effective meeting. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to turn this over to Mayor Pina and let him get through his presentation. We did go out and pre-solicit some questions from tenants, and we forwarded those on to the mayor so that he's got something at the end of the presentation that if he hasn't covered it already, he can kind of click those questions off. And then after that, if people have other questions, we can entertain them as a part of the Zoom meeting itself. But we thought that would help kind of make things kind of speed along. And so at the end of it, I'll thank people and adjourn the meeting. But a final note, we are going to record this tonight, or I should say try to record this tonight and put it on our website. So with that, let's remember to, you know, be appropriate, courteous, and those kinds of things. So because we don't have time to edit things. So anyway, without further ado, maybe first I should ask, please, everybody go on mute. And then we'll turn this over to Mayor Pina. And thanks so much, Matt, for joining us tonight. And I think we may be the first to see this presentation. So that's exciting.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, especially on Veterans Day. I know that we'll make mention of our vets at other points in the presentation, but I think it's important that if folks have a family member who's a veteran, or know someone who did serve, I think it's appropriate just to thank them for their service and let them know that we will never forget it. So with that, I want to move into what we call a state of the city, and this particular one is a tailored version primarily to be focused on the interests of the Des Moines Marina Association as we understand them. But we're willing to, address questions and so forth, but we thought that these would be the topics that you would be most interested in. So Deputy Mayor Mahoney and I have worked on this, and we'll see where it goes. This is the first time we've done a presentation like that this year. We normally do them in person upon request. So let's go to the next slide. So we like to cover the characteristics of the city a little bit. And we've been around since 1959. We are, everybody knows that we're some of the most accessible waterfront between Seattle and Tacoma. And a city now, we've grown to about 31,500. One of our advantages is the diversity that we have here. We have all ages, all ethnicities, and we all live together in this great waterfront community. We like to emphasize that obviously I have a music background, and this community seems very proud of our connection with the Spanish Castle ballroom that was here for quite some time. And it was later replaced by Arctic Circle, and now it's a Walgreens. But in its day, it really was one of the jewels of the Northwest, home to many big bands, but also to many rock and roll icons of the time. Next slide, please. We always like to bring out our form of government because sometimes there's questions about how we operate. And we are in a council city manager form of government here in Des Moines. And it's very much a corporate arrangement. But what that means is that all your council is elected, and then the council selects their mayor and deputy mayor. And that's not unlike, well, and if you think about the council being selected by the community, and you think about the city manager is selected by the council. So the reason I say it's kind of a corporate structure, because if you consider all the citizens of Des Moines, all the voters, the stakeholders, they elect their board of directors. The board of directors hires the CEO. Everybody in the organization works for the CEO. And that's really our form of government. There's another form of government called the strong mayor system. For example, Federal Way does that. And what you'll see is your council members are elected, and you oftentimes have a president of a council, or sometimes called the deputy mayor. And then you have the strong mayor. And the strong mayor, when you see that form of government, you'll see, elect Mike Brown, for example, or Susan Smith as mayor. The difference there is those individuals actually can, they have well, let's just say they have different authority, and they actually do run the city. Everybody does report to them. The reason that I personally prefer the form of government that we're under is that it's not common that someone elected from a community might necessarily have the skill set of someone like Michael Mathias, who can run a city. And because we are essentially an institution that's worth over $100 million. We have I can't remember the exact number of employees. Deputy Mayor Mahoney, do you remember how many employees we have at this time?
137, I think, right now.
Yeah. And we have a very diversified business in that we cover everything from surface water management to roads to parks and recreation programs. And it's just a very diverse business model. And the other thing is that when you have your city council and city manager form of government, if the CEO of the city, just like a corporation, goes sideways with the board of directors, a change can be made. Under the strong mayor form of government, if the mayor goes sideways with the council, as we've seen recently in other cities, that mayor is protected by the fact that they were elected. And so you would have to go through the recall process to remove them. And because of their authority, they could change many things and create quite a bit of a problem for a city. So I think this is a better form of government. It also costs us less. I don't know if people are aware, your city council is paid on a per diem basis to, it's $250 a meeting to a maximum of $10,000 a year. And I will say the mayor does get a stipend more, but it's still capped at $14,000 a year because of the extra obligations of mayor. But that's as much as is put out. Whereas when you find in a strong mayor system, you are paying your strong mayor, they become an employee of the city, they have an office at the city and everything as would be needed for their role. They are typically paid in the vicinity of $200,000 or more. And then they usually hire a city administrator that takes on that role of managing a municipality. So you're paying twice for essentially the same functions. Next slide, please. So these are the goals that have been set by the past councils. They're often reviewed. Under COVID, we have not had the opportunity, but they've held strong with minor changes over the years that I have been serving. And I don't really need to read through them for you, but I think it's nice for people to be able to see them and understand, what our guiding principles are. Next. And then, of course, we have challenges, and we acknowledge them readily. And so while we're working to achieve our goals, we also acknowledge that there are challenges around balancing growth with quality of life and the amenities and the types of services that people want, and how, and again, funding public safety and just trying to take care of the needs of the city. Um, this and several councils have been focused on enhanced economic development, and because it's necessary. The revenues of the city, as we learned more than 5 years ago, were not enough to sustain a city long term. So economic development and having an economic engine with diversified income streams is absolutely essential for sustainability and both in the short and the long term. But you also don't want to lose your culture. We do respect our history. It's nice that we have our outdoor public art displays. We have outdoor concerts. We have a theater that's being renovated, and we will show you some pictures of that later. But again, these things take time. They take public and private interaction. And there are some other things that are a bit of a challenge. Is there are state actions like the $30 card tab issue that had passed, and had it survived, we would have lost our ability to pave roads, because that the revenues collected by the city of Des Moines through car licensing go into our transportation benefit district. And I like to point this out because when you see it on your vehicle registration, it's oftentimes noted as TBD. That is not to be determined. That is the transportation benefit district. And those dollars are earmarked in our budget for road maintenance and repaving. At a cost of about $1 million a mile, it is quite expensive. And since we've had the transportation benefit district, we have done roads like 223rd and a portion of 216th, although 216th was mostly funded through grants, although about 10% of it was funded by the city.
We're going to have 11 streets up on North Hill that'll be paved in the spring in cooperation with the Highline Water on some water lines they were replacing.
Yes.
That's the most recent.
Yes. And then, other challenges also, there's the unexpected, the financial impacts from COVID-19, and we will talk about that a little bit more later. And then we also have an issue with land banking in this city. As many of you notice when you drive around, you'll see that there's property here that's not necessarily for sale. Sometimes, we've been much more proactive with our code enforcement in recent years, removing derelict buildings and things and other hazards. But land banking has been an issue in this community. The good news is that as we are progressing, more and more people are thinking that it may be time to sell, which is, and that allows for future development and growth. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'll take this one, Mayor. So we wanted to start off with something that I'd come across, and it was the first comprehensive plan this city made in 1962. And I chose one particular section that I'm going to read to you. Like all other cities, Des Moines has its own assortment of land problems, some of them beyond its control. 1 mile north of Des Moines is a large international airport. Steadily increasing air traffic, flying at low altitudes, creates a nuisance and a hazard to property in and near the approach zones of this large airport. Plans to install a second major runway paralleling the existing runway will further increase its nuisance and hazardous effects. The city is bordered and traversed by state highways. Traffic counts on these highways and on its arterial streets indicate that daily volume of traffic is steadily increasing and will continue to increase. The downtown district of Des Moines is strung out along an arterial street. It lacks unity and it lacks off-street parking. A recent survey made by the JCs revealed the fact that many of the commercial structures can be classified as old and needing repair or replacement. A survey made in February 1962, analyzing assessed values of the land and buildings in the downtown area, indicate that on several parts of the land itself is worth more than the commercial structures on it. The city needs sidewalks. The reason why we showed you that is because when you look at the downtown area, not much change. We probably got a few more sidewalks, and now we have a third runway. but we still continue to have the same problems they did in 1962. So there's a little bit of effort of evidence where we've kind of repeated ourselves over time. So how do you break that cycle of insanity?
Well, and the truth of the matter is, we've been working very hard at that. I will say that although the dollar store wasn't necessarily what we wanted to replace a grocery store, we now have Anytime Fitness next door, and we are slowly starting to see investment in these properties. I think about, boy, was it called Lago Azul? And at one point, well, now it's Origins Bistro, but that building hadn't changed in a long time. And now I guess my point is that buildings are starting to get new investment in them. But there are still some pieces of property that have been owned for a number of years, and we are continuing to work to make it more attractive for people to sell so people can redevelop and reinvest.
So over the past 5 years, the past councils and through the current council, one of the major things is we basically got ourselves out of bankruptcy or the potential for bankruptcy, and we're solidly sustainable. This is references what the mayor spoke about earlier about diversified revenue streams, and this particularly benefited us during this time where we didn't take such hits as other cities did during COVID. We locked in a competent city manager and staff. This was controversial, but it was needed to ensure that we had consistency and we kept the focus of our direction moving forward. We've improved our credit rating. This is particularly going to be important with the seawall down on the Marina in the north parking lot and so forth. We're going to be able to do a lot of big projects for a lot of dollars for a lot less than we would have been able to do otherwise. And we built a reserve for economic downturn and emergency management. So we have a reserve of 16.67%. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We engaged in the Marina and Marina District Development Plan. So we've been working on an overall plan. Some of it you've heard about. We're going to show you a little bit tonight, and there's more to come, but we're engaged in a strategic plan there. We've been expanding some city parks. One of the most recent is Midway. And we assessed and started to address infrastructure issues. 223rd was a perfect example where back in the day when I-695 was passed, we essentially were crippled as far as replacing infrastructure and paving roads. The TBD, as the mayor mentioned, was a catalyst for us to getting 223rd paved and some other roads and getting on to improving some of the quality of our streets in our town. Anything else?
I'd also like to add that it was through our franchise agreements with the water and sewer departments that we were able to develop a partnership, because once you repave a road, it weakens the road to open it up and replace pipes and things like that. So through our franchise agreements, yes, we now receive a 6% compensation for them functioning in our rights of way, but we have given up certain rights and agreed to a working structure where we notify them 18 months in advance of our intention to work in certain areas, and that allows them time to to make their appropriate budget adjustments and so forth. So once we open that road and we start the work, they can go through and replace their infrastructure at the same time. That dramatically extends the life of the road. And we didn't always have this in place. And a perfect example of where it got us was when we paved 24th in front of the business park. That road wasn't there for 6 months before all of a sudden a big section of it had to be cut out for enhanced utilities. So this has really worked out well for the city.
So you want to handle this one, Mayor?
Sure. Well, there are 12 bullet points here, and they cover a variety of things. that, you know, pertain to the marina and the marina connection to the downtown corridor and so forth. The thing that I think, some of the things I think that we will cover later in the presentation, but some of the things I think we should talk about right here are replacement of the north parking lot bulkhead. You know, it's been incredibly challenging. We have been, I personally have spoken with Adam Smith and many other electeds trying to find a way to move the permits we need forward. We have worked on the financing, the design, but we need those permits to move. And for political reasons, we've not been able to get them. We are still committed and focused on that because it impairs everything else that we're looking at, or not everything, but many things that we're looking at doing on the marina floor. Because if you, for example, if you were a developer and you had purchased a home that you wanted to redo and either rent, sell, or live in, the fact is you would really make sure that you had a strong foundation. And it's very difficult to get these projects to move forward with that bulkhead being in the state that it is. So we really have to get that done to shore up the foundation so we can build, you know, or do the appropriate enhancements to the marina. There was also some dredging that was on the docket, and we were mindful of it. And I want to yield to our harbor master, Scott Wilkins, if he has anything to add to this. But the fact is, they went and they looked at the silt and as it was building up, and they noticed that there was a very urgent situation. So major credit to Harbor Master Wilkins for, you know, moving on this one, getting an emergency permit, and the dredging will, right now, our understanding is the planned start date is November 16th.
Thank you, Mayor Matt. Pina, yeah, Scott with the Marina. Yeah, just to alliterate a little bit on this, this is a project that's been ongoing for quite some time, waiting on the same permits as the bulkhead is. We kind of did an end around on one of those permits, that National Marine Fisheries permit, and the Corps gave us an emergency permit. So they're allowing us to go in there and dig it back out so we can keep our channel open, safe, and keep it open for business. So yeah, it was a big team effort, and I'm very proud of everybody. And yes, it will be starting on Monday.
Thank you. The other thing I'd like to point out especially is item number 4, maintain a working marina. The council is committed to this. We understand that, you know, just having access to the waterfront is very meaningful, but we have a boating community, and we have every intention of maintaining a working marina. It is an older marina that does need work in various areas, and there were some questions around that, so I'm going to defer until we get to that part of the presentation. So next slide, please. So now where we're at are really, there's a lot of pictures at this point. These are renderings that maybe some of you have seen and maybe some of you haven't. But these are kind of the ideas that have been brought forth to help us figure out what could be done on the marina floor. And like I said, in all cases, it is our intention to fully have a working marina. But we also want to utilize the space. It's been very effective for public gatherings, and its connection to the downtown for both for boaters going into downtown as well as for pedestrians or visitors or residents of the city wanting to get down to the marina. It would make a lot of sense if off 223rd we could get what we refer to as the harbor steps. So if you look in the middle, there's a blue circle, and then if you look up from that, there's kind of an area that connects up to, I believe that's Overlook 2 Park, but we're looking at some kind of structure that could go in there and have a water feature, but create a stairway that connects up to 223rd and on up into town. Just if you look just to the left of that, that's currently a boat yard. and we keep marina equipment and so forth there. Probably not the highest and best use of that property on the marina floor. There have been many suggestions of what kind of building you could have there. The reason the roofs are green is that we are looking at green roofs. It's at least for as long as I've been on the council, the councils of the past have always encouraged something where the community could come and sit out on top the roof with the understanding that, you know, we are a town, we're a waterfront community, but not everybody has a waterfront view. Although you're not far from it, this gives an opportunity for people who maybe couldn't afford to locate in the front row to come down and enjoy that, and maybe bring friends and so forth, but enjoy our sunsets and our views from our marina. Just in front of the building that I was talking about on the right side, there's kind of an auditorium actually to the left of the blue circle. There's the possibility of kind of building kind of maybe a bleacher kind of structure that would support a variety of community gathering functions. And then if you go to the right, where you were before, Matt, you can see there's the white box, which is currently the harbor master's office, and that's where they do their business. There may be an opportunity to place those functions in another one of the buildings and possibly have that become a destination restaurant or something like that. And then if you look at the white structure, thank you, Matt, where Matt's got his pointer, that's currently where our garages are. And there's the possibility of taking that structure up a little bit. You don't have a lot of room because your building heights are very low within 200 feet of the shoreline, but you could maintain boat storage. You could put a year-round farmer's market in there, and possibly even some other businesses in there. So these are just artist rendering of what some things might look like on the marina floor. And we're going to move. If you look at this bottom, we're at 9 of 42. We're going to pick up a little speed because a lot of these are pictures at this point, just to kind of highlight a few things. Next slide, please. So yes, of course, here are some great pictures of our marina. And the one thing that we like to point out is the boardwalk, or not the boardwalk, but I believe it's referred to as the promenade, that we have this picture over on the left side. As the bulkhead is redone, it's our intent to bring that all the way around and connect over into the business park. And then of course, we have the quarterdeck, a container store, and that we have the council passed a resolution, or I'm sorry, an ordinance that would allow for 5 of those down there. In talking with Ken, he has pointed out that he has had many people ask him about what it took and what it would take to go about creating another one and so forth. I think he said he feels like he spoke to 100 people, but it's always one time. So not sure. We haven't heard any negative feedback on things. We've heard nothing but positive, but we'll see where this goes. Next, please. And of course, our farmers market. We're very committed to the farmers market. We do everything we can to support the farmers market every year. Under COVID, their attendance is down, and so are the number of vendors, but they're doing their best because everybody looks forward to it every summer. And we do have a number of farmers that are very committed to working with us and being part of this. So this is something we consider to be an essential part of our marine. Next. Here's an aerial shot of that's really to highlight, if you look in the middle of the page, the green that goes all the way up to Marine View Drive. And it's really to emphasize the value of here, enhancing that path, because it brings you out and could do a really effective job at enhancing the activation of 7th Avenue, as well as supporting our businesses along Marine View Drive. 6th Avenue, for the most part, is residential. Next, please. And again, here's another view, highlighting the location of where the green buildings could be, but also tying the marina and the promenade into the beachfront, into our beach park. And then the next couple pictures are really just intended to give folks a bit of an idea of what this harbor steps idea could look like. If you've not seen, there are some harbor steps downtown, but if you've not seen them and people aren't quite familiar with them, these are artist rendering of what they could be. There is a couple of different models. There's one that's actually a series of stairs. And then there's another one that's kind of a switchback model that might be a little bit easier for folks that need to have some mobility support. Next.
Yeah, very conceptual. Couple examples here as well of components that could be integrated in. I think a lot of you've seen these.
And of course, we are focused on maximizing our beach park and connecting it into the marina. And again, we do have historical buildings down there, and that we're moving along with them as quick as we can. During these difficult times, not as many dollars are available, and there are a lot of rules around some of those dollars, but things are moving forward, and we're committed to the expansion of the beach park.
It costs quite a bit of money. For example, the Sunhome Lodge, just to get the foundation done, is about $750,000, and that doesn't include the remodel that you make it ADA access and all the other things you'd have to do, removing any asbestos and other materials, and that's just in the beach park.
And
Yeah.
just for clarity, the Sunhome Lodge, a lot of people don't know what building that is, Matt, if you want to clarify.
Yeah, for all those that don't know, is you go to the beach park, you've got the dining area, you got the auditorium, you've got the picnic area, and in behind that is actually the lodge that was there, and that is also part of that historic set of buildings.
Well, as is the Founders Lodge, and so the Sunhome Lodge is just, I would say, north, maybe a little northeast along the creek, next to the auditorium. And then the farthest building out, kind of a square building over the creek, that's the Founders Lodge. And that one hasn't been addressed yet. The other buildings that are, every time we do one of these buildings, especially those that are over the creek, we have to lift them up. And I believe, I'm not sure, I believe it's at least 2 or 3 feet higher. If Harbor Master Wilkins is on, he may know for sure. And I also understand that when we redo the bulkhead, I believe we have to add 3 feet to that. Scotty, are you there to clarify?
You are correct, Mayor. On both accounts, the dining hall went up about 3 feet, and the bulkhead wall will go up. The wall will be about 2 feet higher.
And a lot of this just has to do with the water tables are rising. I am not going to brand it. I'm just going to say that's a fact, and we have to deal with it. So
it's expensive.
Next, please.
Sum it up.
Okay, here's something that has taken a long time. The same folks are behind it, and we're really excited about. I think summer of 2021, maybe a bit optimistic, but they are working very hard at it. So this is the renovation of our Des Moines Theater, and it's coming along quite well. I think we have some other photographs. This is kind of the construction phase that it's in, and they did acquire the property between what was known as the Scotch and Vine or Maddie's, and there's a lot between there. They did acquire that. At this point, I don't see any building occurring on that parcel, but I'm unaware if they have any plans to build on that parcel, but that is all part of the new theater structure. One of their challenges with time is actually the picture to the bottom left. Not all of that is brick. And portions of the building look like cinder block, and in fact, they're not. They are a clay structure, so they had to build structure inside to make this thing work. And it was a little bigger job than I think they thought it was. Next, please. And so here are some renderings. They were one of the projects that did apply for and receive the 45-foot height bonus along Marine View Drive. There was the theater. There were only two, and these were put together as incentives because we do want to maintain our view corridors and be respectful of the fact that we are built in kind of a basin. But we needed to encourage some redevelopment downtown. And so it was put out. There are two projects on Marine View Drive that got that. There was the theater, and the other one is the area that is just north of Jack in the Box, affectionately known as the Pit. That particular project does not look to be going forward. That property is now for sale, and I believe their options have expired. The problem with that building is the developer was said they wanted to move forward. They did buy all their permits. They did meet a number of their earlier deadlines, but then some of their projects, for whatever reason, took them away from here, and now it looks like it's not going to happen for them.
One
Next,
note,
please.
just so
Go ahead.
everybody knows where we are, where you can see my cursor. This is the pour they're doing right now, the next pour for the floor. So
Yeah, and I believe, Matt, it's not in this picture, but can you kind of point where you'll see the Des Moines marquee, that the neon? I think it's right above the theater that
yeah,
they're putting that in.
it'll be right here, right here. You can see it on this one right here.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, but they're pouring, so these two exist today, but they're starting to pour this one here in the next few weeks. They're setting the forms for it right now.
One of the exciting things about the group that's doing this is the design of this building is that it will be of mixed use, but that all of the businesses around it should fund the needs of the building so that the theater has the opportunity to function independently, meaning that it can go dark. And a dark theater is to allow for live performance. Although they can do the spoken word, they can do musical performance, they can do live theater. I'm not sure. I believe there was some conversation about a dinner theater setup. They can do many things, but the idea is that they didn't want to be pushed into having to show films all the time. That they wanted to be able to function with live performance. Wesley, early on in my council service, we didn't have, the zoning was such in the city that you couldn't build anything over 35 feet anywhere in the city. And Wesley had already built over 35 feet. And so they were looking and redeveloping in other parts of other cities around the state. It was with Councilmember Melissa Musser, Dave Kaplan, and myself and others at that time. We worked to come up with something called institutional zoning. There are very few places in the city that have that. Wesley received it, Highline College received it, Judson Park received it, and the Masonic Home has it as well. But as soon as that happened, that allowed them to build up to 65 feet and give them some flexibilities for appurtenances. And so they immediately started moving on this, and we are seeing a brand new Wesley development. The terrace is already, it received renovations. It was a younger building. but the gardens is just about gone now. I think that's what Matt is showing in the middle of the screen. And then if you look in the upper right, that's an angle of what the gardens looks like today.
Yeah, they just
or-
started tearing the back end of that building out, and it should be gone within the next few weeks.
Landmark on the Sound, we're going to tell you what little we know. It has had contracts on it several times. The first one, the folks were really committed to trying to find a way to save the building. It's a 29-acre piece of land. And it's relatively, I would say, primarily unobstructed view, because Lower Zenith across the street from it is all developed. It's also a little bit L-shaped in that the property goes back to the, there's a condominium complex and then Highland Village, but there's a water tower to the, again, to the northeast of this property if you were looking at it from this view. And that water tower is for the purposes of the Masonic home. And that water tower is actually behind the Judson Park property right now. Anyway, for a number of reasons that we aren't necessarily privy to, the contract has expired a couple times, and it was recently purchased at it had been out at 18 million, but I believe the actual purchase was at 12 million, and it did have the stipulation that it could be torn down in the purchase. It is not historically protected, as that needs to be petitioned by the owner, and the Masons did not want to do it, feeling that it would be too expensive and to make the property too difficult to sell. And I had been told that the Masons were spending about $1 million a year in maintenance and just operational costs on the property. So we have yet to find out. It has been recently fenced off, so people can't even walk through it anymore. But as of this point, we have not received drawings or heard anything from the property owner as to what their intent is.
One thing I'd add is that the previous council, before the current one, approved the zoning, the institutional zoning for this building in an effort to work with one group. A lot of you went to the open house to do it, and they simply backed out. So as far as the city's efforts, we've definitely made the pitch to preserve this building despite the situation we're in right now.
To the point that, in all honesty, I mean, this is an icon in our city. I would hate to see it fall. If you look at the center of this picture and you look at the center point, and then the roof line that comes across where you see the chimney, and then the roof comes down there, I would even advocate if they could at a minimum just save that portion of the building if they had to take the wings, because the wings are primarily residential and they are done in a dorm style. But in the center of that building is a theater, a parlor, a huge dining room, an enormous commercial kitchen. There's still a lot that could be for this community. So we'll have to wait and see what they think. The Redondo Fishing Pier. Actually, Harbor Master Wilkins, my understanding is that we have done the design work on this, but there's still, I believe it needs the same permit that we need for the bulkhead. I'm not positive on that. Can you add in a little to that?
I can add a little bit, because actually this is one of Andrew Merger's projects. He's also the one that did the Redondo Boardwalk, so he's very familiar with that down there. We did a walkthrough last week with the agencies that are looking at finalizing the designs for the bathroom and the pier and everything else. So I don't know quite as much as Andrew probably does, but it's going to be beautiful. We're looking at moving the restroom off of the plaza and maybe over into the parking lot to make the view corridors a lot prettier and just open up that whole space and things like that. So the permits, I believe a lot of the design work is all done. Anthony Hempstead has helped a lot with some funding and getting some of that started. And we're moving forward. But yes, it is going to take also the same amount of permits as the bulkhead is trying to get by right now.
Thank you. You know, the other thing about this is that we think of Redondo in many different ways, but Deputy Mayor Mahoney, I believe we are looking at, is it the giant squid capital of the Northwest?
Well, we have the giant Pacific octopus out there. Yes, but a lot of squid out there as well.
Okay. And again, there are, Deputy Mayor Mahoney's been involved in trying to work with groups to create kind of an underwater museum there. It's stalled for a variety of reasons as well, but even though things are stalled, they're not stopped. So there is still hope that we will get something like that.
What we're doing is making an effort to create an underwater dive park with reef features. It'll add a couple of bonuses to our area. One, it becomes a natural life-generating habitat, and also gives a great destination for many divers to come and spend their money here, eat at our restaurants, use our dive shops, and stay in our hotels.
Well, and the creation of this would involve a lot of cleanup in along the shoreline and so forth. And that's just part of our commitment to, you know, being a good steward environmentally. I think Des Moines, even though we typically think about ourselves from the land side, ecotourism is an incredible opportunity for this city looking forward.
Exactly. And a great partnership with the Mass Center there, with the science, and even maybe SR3. There, Casey.
This is a picture that many people have seen, and you've probably driven it because it's finally complete. But it was, we wanted to create a gateway entrance into the city off of Pack Highway. So you definitely knew you were someplace different. And it's finally done. It was a long stretch of road to do. And this is the project that I referred to where it was mostly funded through grants. This is how hard your staff works for you. They look for dollars wherever they can get them, and they bring them together. And again, this city paid in somewhere in the vicinity, give or take 4 or 5% of 10% of this project. And that's another thing where there was a little bit of money from the TBD that went in to support this as well. But it's a beautiful entry into our city.
But a great example of using other people's money to get a great road leading into our downtown.
Yeah. So we have ongoing new development, and we look to keep this going. In a lot of cases, it's new. You know, we're even looking at redevelopment. So it's the picture with the police car in it. What used to be known, it's across from the pit that we talked about earlier. It used to be known as the old BB Nails site that had a Coming Soon banner on it for 15 years. There were a lot of reasons that happened. And then finally, those folks got together and decided they wanted to redevelop the property. Again, it's an owner development. It's coming along kind of slowly, but it is mixed use. So the lower areas are to be commercial, and they can have residential above. The lot that's just to the left of that in the upper part of the screen, that is essentially the view of the old Blaze Boats site, which has also been referred to as the pit. And that is the project that doesn't look like it's going to happen and is currently on the market.
Down here below is the Waterview crossing that has been completed. This is where a former essentially trailer park that I think had about 60 units on it was converted into 340 something units of quality affordable housing. And then I'll let you talk about the next one, Matt.
Well,
it just got announced.
I actually
you want me to take it?
Yeah, please.
Oh, so just up Pack Highway, or going south on Pack Highway, kind of near where that hotel is and Save On Insurance and so forth. There's a parcel of land up there that's where they're going to place this new Point by Vantage. And this is also going to be, I think, around 160 units of quality housing. Some of the back ones are going to have great views of the water. And we're going to see a bit of this happening as the light rail stations come in. One of the things that's really both on the Kent and Des Moines side is quality affordable housing, kind of mixed use where you have retail below and housing above. So there's quick access to the light rail stations so they can commute into their jobs, et cetera. So that just kind of gives you an example of what's headed up on Pack Highway.
And there is the impression that people who live in these facilities would probably only have one car instead of two because they have chosen to live along a light rail area. So you will hear this commonly referred to as transit-oriented development.
Yeah. And we've seen a few 4 more cars than what's promised. We'll just tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. And COVID, COVID again, right now car sales are up and use of public transportation is down. It's hard to say because we don't know where things are going to go at this point. Next. And here we have this beautiful
Casey to talk about
opportunity to talk about that. Really it's Monday is really their key day, but I think since we have Casey here, I'd love to have her talk to us a little bit about this fabulous project that she has brought to our city.
She didn't know we were going to do this to her.
She did not.
I didn't see that bus coming at all. Thanks, guys.
Actually, Casey, all we're looking at is, can you just tell us a little bit about the project? And
oh yeah, for sure, no problem. And I love the pictures you've chosen here. I think quite a few people. No
one's seen these before. Just let them know that you guys are the first.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know who's seen these before or not. So we partnered with the city and the Arts Commission to make our fence look a little more appealing for the community. You know, we could have wrapped it in just a solid color and people would have wondered what's happening behind there. This is something that's required for our federal permit, but we wanted it to be nice and engaging. So we found an artist along with the Arts Commission to create this beautiful work of art for us. So this is going to be coming up soon, probably by the end of November. And mixed in with the artwork, we plan to put up some educational plaques that will describe what's going on behind there and kind of just a little bit about the incredible marine life that we have. So right here on our waterfront. So that's the outside. Much like everything else we've talked about, COVID has definitely caused some slowdowns for us. We have some specialty manufactured things that have taken much longer to get than we expected. But we are in the final stages. We're putting up, you may have seen those really tall silver poles that are going up around our pools. That's to create the enclosure for the animals. And that'll be our last piece before we're ready to open. So we're hoping by the end of the year, we'll be ready to open our doors, looking to do some virtual launches and things like that. On November 16th, we'll be having a press conference to announce a new partnership, oddly enough, with Oklahoma. They're wanting to support our killer whale research. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the city council members. Have the information on the press conference if you want to see what's going on with that partnership. And my phone is always on, and I'm always happy to have you guys stop by. Just kind of wave us down or bang on the gate and we'll come let you in anytime you're comfortable to come visit. We'd love to have you.
The Waterland blog also has the invite. It just came out today. So if you get access to it, it's got the click to the Zoom link for that meeting.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone here for all of the wonderful support, and the community's super excited. So we're really looking forward to having everyone be part of this operation.
And I think, Casey, there may be some, I'm not sure, but there may be some that don't recognize the mission of SR3. Can you just simply state what it is you do?
Yeah, so very simply said, we rescue and protect marine wildlife.
There you have it. And we have that now on our marina floor, again, emphasizing our commitment to being good stewards of the water that we so enjoy. Next. Okay.
I think we got the list right here, Matt.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it is COVID has obviously had an impact, and we keep encouraging people to, please wear a mask, be socially distant, try and do things outside, although it's getting increasingly difficult with the temperatures dropping and the days getting shorter and the weather getting wetter. I mean, but COVID has hit the city's revenue to some degree. There are fewer people driving, their business activities down. There's a lot of things and I'm sure you've all heard about those deals. Well, from the revenue portion of things, if you tune in tomorrow night, the city council will be addressing its budget for 2021. But some of the key things that you'll find in that budget is we are solvent and we are sustainable, and sustainable into the foreseeable future. At this time is projected about 5 years out. But there are still many things that are unknown. But at this point, all is looking very good. Our businesses have been impacted. And so our city staff put together a program they called the GROW program. They waited until they understood how much in CARES dollars, and there was a King County grant and that we also matched, and some other sources of money. They waited to see how much we would be able to use of those dollars, and then what dollars would be left. And so then they looked into the rules. Several council members had expressed their desire to want to help our businesses, but it wasn't through council action that the GROW program took place. It was the staff listening to the council's desire, understanding the issues with the city, looking at our finances carefully. And when money was made available, we were able to award several of our businesses that applied grants of somewhere between $5,000 on up to, some of them received $25,000, depending upon how they justified their request. So that was a significant help to the city, and I give major credit to Michael Mathias and everybody on his team. We have had to modify some of our city services. There are programs that couldn't take place. There are activities that couldn't take place. The key for us right now is to maintain those involved in our infrastructure that run that help with those services if the services aren't taking place right now. And so what we've done is we've been very creative, and we have staff members that have had to be very flexible, but then very willing to serve the city in other capacities where their skill set would work. So we could, keep everybody together to get to the end of this. And hopefully we'll see that sometime in 2021. We also, when this kicked in, we created the Emergency Operations Center in partnership with South King Fire and Rescue. And what that enabled us to do was to work together with the fire department and our police department working together, staying in contact with direct line through into King County. It helped us acquire PPE in the beginning, helped us to track where events were taking place. It helped our law enforcement team and our fire team work together, because in many cases, the fire and rescue, it had better equipment than our law enforcement team, because they go to different types of, they're geared for different types of events. So they would partner and they would show up together to make sure that the men and women that were out there, working on our behalf were safe. We have been functioning and are functioning under emergency declaration. That's why City Hall is essentially closed. Most employees, if possible, are working from home. Many or they're working outside. That's why we're doing a lot of these Zoom conferences. I will say, as of right now, as much as we would all love to see more, holiday events or see something, there are no special event permits at this time until we reach phase 3. And that has been backed by proclamation of the governor. So we're concerned. We are a community that has a substantial amount of its population at risk. Although we have a lot of young families and so forth, we also have, we have Wesley, we have Judson, was it
Huntington Park.
Huntington Park, and I'm thinking of Stafford up on the highway, where we have seniors that are being that are living, and many of them have issues. We also have condominium complexes and so forth, and we love having the diversity in the city, but we really need to take, the risk of exposure can be less during the summertime, but now as more people are getting infected and people continue to move around, the trends are increasing. And I'll leave that to you to check the King County website or to check our website that does link out to it, our city website. You can also just watch the news. They're going to show you this stuff over and over. Next. So what's worked out, though, really well is that throughout all this, because of our experiences about 5 years ago that were caused by a completely different situation, we looked very carefully at the financial health of the city, and we put together some very sound financial and economic principles, put them in place, and those have brought us to a point where we are healthy in a sustainable way. We have the GFOA recommended reserve of 16.67% in place. To give you an idea, policy prior to turning the ship around and writing things, I think our target was 7%. We were usually hitting about 3% in reserve. So this is outstanding, and this is why we're surviving well. We have a AA+ credit rating. It is almost the highest credit rating municipality can get. You have to be able to weather an economic downturn to get the top rating. And that's probably going to be a byproduct of this, because we are doing very well in terms of staying healthy. And I mean that financially healthy as a city, and we are doing it while still maintaining services. Again, this is because we have been fiscally responsible, and we put in some sound economic and financial processes. Again, diversified revenue streams is definitely one of them, but we've done many more. Matt, would you like to talk about the light rail?
So just this is a quick update. So as you know, we have the Angle Lake light rail station. And by 2024, we'll have 2 others that kind of surround our city. One will be across from Highline College. You can see it being all cleared out, and construction starting now. And then we'll have an additional one that'll be at near Star Lake, where Star Lake is today. And of course, there'll be another one up on Federal Way. This adds a whole new dynamic. It makes it great for us to commute back and forth to Seattle in an efficient way. But as we mentioned earlier, with some of the new development, you're going to see that coming in as well on the side. So moving along.
Yeah, I mean, most people, we like to include the slide of completed projects. I particularly enjoy this slide because I've lived here for so long. And the truth of the matter is, when I first got elected to the council, there were many parts of the city that looked exactly like they did when I rode my bike down them. When I was, 7 or 8 years old. So seeing these things really come around is significant. One of the things about the business park, a lot of people ask us, is that, isn't that port property? What revenues do you get there? We get leasehold tax there, which means we get revenue on the buildings that are leased. I will say that on the FAA building, we don't. That's owned by and operated and managed by the same government organization that is responsible for the White House and many other key government buildings. So we don't generate a lot of revenue from that in terms of leasehold, but all the other buildings that are up there, we do. Plus, we do receive money through utility tax and things like that through the basic operation of the business park, and that's helped our budget substantially. We have a number of new businesses that have come in and want to encourage people to support them any way you can. Here's a list of just some of them. I will say the Teacup down on 7th Avenue, it's close to, was it ABC Grocery, I think is the,
Yep.
it's the best kept secret in the city, in my opinion. They do a tea that is ginger and honey and so forth. And I went in there and long before COVID, I met Councilmember Buxton there, and I had this cold, and they said, try this tea. This stuff is amazing. And now, even if I get any kind of congestion, I'm down there with one of those cups of teas for myself, my mom, my wife, a friend. That stuff, best kept secret in the world. Anyway, but we have some great businesses in the city, and we're very, very happy to have them.
Yeah, I'm kind of partial to 8 Dive Shop for obvious reasons. All right, we'll probably cover these pretty quick so we can move along. Do you want to go to the next one, Matt, or?
Well, I think it's just, important for people to know that, we've really been working with public safety, and, I guess all I'd like to say, you can read the contents of the slide, but what I'd really like to point out is that we have a fully staffed, healthy police force that is well operated, and we are certified. And what that means is that we are one of 40, in the vicinity of 40 agencies in the state of Washington that has somewhere in the ballpark of 250, I'm not sure of the exact number, police agencies. And we are one of 40 of them that are certified. And what that means is that we get a lot of extra training, things like how to de-escalate situations and so forth, and how to handle things well. Our agency is really running very well. And when you think of the legs of government, we also have justice and legal here. So we do have a municipal court. As a city, we can't process or adjudicate felonies, but we do handle misdemeanors. And we also do that and provide those services for the city of Normandy Park under contract.
So I'll briefly speak to this area. So
Sure.
As everybody knows, the big issues on national front have been how the way police conduct themselves. One of the most comforting things is they talk about the 8 ways. Well, I'm here to tell you that our officers have been practicing these methods for quite some time. I'm not going to get into them right now, but I just wanted to assure you that they are. A couple things we're looking at. We're looking at body cameras, and we've been working with the Police Guild, Chief Thomas, and several others about offering that transparency to our community. Also, in addition, one of the big problems is how do you infuse mental health training as well? And we're in the works on some ways to get that funded or grants through the state. And I'll go in full funding, as Matt mentioned, that, obviously we fully fund our police, but in addition, there's this I-940 initiative that we're in participation. For those of you who may not know, in previous election just recently, this was the one that required any officer shooting required citizen review as well. And we have 4 or 5 different people in our city that have been selected, and we participate in that. So if recently there was a shooting in Kent just a few days ago, it actually happens to be some of our representatives that will be the citizen representatives for that. And as Matt mentioned, one of 40 accredited policing operations. That's stellar.
I just wanted to add that 8 ways, when you hear 8 can't wait, that's the 8.
Yep.
When you hear around on the
Yes.
news, that's the 8.
Yes.
So really quick, obviously we continue to offer it despite COVID. We continue to fund our Metro shuttle to the light rail. Of course, it's more limited seating than it was in the past, but all things are good there. Do we want to briefly tackle this animal?
There's not a lot to tackle on that front right at this time. I think that the key thing is that the city council realizes that the airport is there and we're here and neither of us are moving. We have to find a way to reasonably cohabitate. And it has been a pleasure working with our state representative, Tina Orwell, and Karen Kaiser. They have been very helpful in trying to bring communities together over the true siting of another airport, the particulate matter studies that were done by the University of Washington. And currently we are one of the many cities that help to fund a study around the impact of these air filters in homes and in schools. And we're looking to see how that might help move forward with additional mitigation. So there's a lot here. It's obviously impacted. We don't hear as many planes today because airlines aren't flying as many routes. And again, this all has to do with COVID. So what would we go back to? What can we accomplish now? The airlines are hemorrhaging. I know the ports are not doing as well with money. Even some of the cities aren't. But I just look at this and go, this is always going to be an issue for this city. And we are always going to have conversations and we will constantly be working on various solutions at various levels to make our coexistence possible. Next.
All right.
I'm going to give this one to Matt. He is our only veteran on the council, and it's been a real pleasure to have him there in that capacity. So Matt, I pass the torch to you on this one.
So first of all, I want to say thank you to all the veterans, but anybody else that maybe had a family member that they've lost that was a veteran, as well as people there's a lot of Army brats and other military kids that traveled around the world, and I thank you as well. A couple things we've traditionally done. We had to do a video this year, but we typically host events to honor our veterans. But one of the things we're trying to do, and excuse my kindergartenish drawing, but how many of you guys are aware of the triangle at the north end of town, right?
Known as the Flag Pavilion.
Known as the Flag Pavilion. And it's actually a World War I monument. There's a great history behind it because that's why it's Des Moines Memorial Drive. It was one that honored many who lost their lives in this particular area during World War I. Well, quite honestly, we think the entrance is kind of a little bit of an embarrassment as we enter in town. We'd like to do something different. One of the suggestions that we've been pushing is that we'd like to take the grass up and plant like azaleas, red, white, and blue. And so for a couple weeks in the May window, they would be in full bloom and beautiful. And otherwise they would just look like a well-kept area. So as people would be flying over, coming into they would see it, or they enter the city, it would jazz up our north end of town as they enter in. And also it would give due respect to those that lost their lives in World War I, as it should be.
Now, I will say that this is one of the projects that was slated for 2020 that had to have been put on hold because not knowing exactly where the finances are going to be, we are strictly focused on key operational expenditures and capital expenditures. You know, Tracy, I never talked to you about this, but
We're putting you on the spot.
Because of your role, would you like to talk about this slide? You've seen it many times.
Support list, sure, I'll talk about the slide. So we have a Human Services Advisory Committee that is made up of citizens There's a staff member hosts it, and I sit in on the meetings, but I'm not a voting member of the committee. The citizens gather together to do their main job is to distribute the fund that the city council has established for supporting agencies that support our citizens in these areas, and mostly what I call this mental health. And so this year in our budget, which has not formally been approved yet, for 2021 and 2022, the city council will hopefully approve $175,000 to be distributed, I think among, I'm supposed to know, maybe 20 agencies.
That's
And
about right.
this, yeah, this committee is the committee who decides how much goes to who. And then once that is done, it's a 2-year cycle. And once they decide how much money is distributed, then their job is to maintain accountability. So each member of the committee has a group of agencies that they visit on a regular basis with a checklist and a review. They get a tour and they have contact people, and just to assure that these agencies are fulfilling what they promised in their granting applications. And then as it comes around again, that becomes part of the review for the next round of grants. And our granting, it's so much per year, but it's a 2-year cycle. So once one of these agencies receives their grant approval, they will get that grant amount for 2 years. So all of these agencies serve Des Moines citizens. That is the #1 priority for us when we see. But another priority for us is also to get a good distribution of types of service. So we want to make sure we've at least got some maybe health care, dental care, physical care, domestic violence, poison control. So you've got kind of a wide range of whatever somebody might need, that we are supporting all these different kinds of services. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Tracy. You know, when you take a city of our size, we couldn't possibly, I mean, when you take $175,000, you really can't fund one of these agencies all by yourself. So that's why we work with other entities to jointly fund and hold these agencies up. And it's a great tool for, you know, our law enforcement team. It's a great tool for even our South King Fire and Rescue. They work together to help drive the citizens in need to these agencies, and it's really been worked out very well for the city. And Tracy, I really appreciate your work on that committee. You've been very passionate about that.
So Mayor, we're finally going to get to the questions that they've submitted earlier. Sorry about this. We obviously knew this would take some time, so bear with us, and we're going to answer those questions that you asked us now.
We're going to do our best.
We're going to do our best. We made them sound like Scotty's the one that answered most of them for us, just as a disclaimer.
Well, we felt it was very important that you got the information that was you know, as accurate as possible. So the first question was addressing the momentum on the Marina development, and, you know, wondering how COVID had an impact. The answers we did put in yellow, and that it did put most things on hold. We have a condition report on all the docks, and we're waiting for, you know, that's in work. We're waiting for those results to come back to us, and hopefully that'll be any day. But that information will be helpful as we move forward and look at repair, reconfiguration, things like that. I'm going to yield to Harbor Master Wilkins should he want to add into anything, or if he says, nope, that's it, then we keep going.
Hey, Mayor, how about I'll read the question and then you read the answer. Maybe give them a little bit of a difference.
Sure.
Here.
Let's start with number 2.
Is the city making enough money for proper marina maintenance? We understand there are a number of pilings that need to be replaced, and we and our dock neighbors have been forced to move out of our 40-foot slips due to concerns that a piling was about to break. As other pilings reach this condition, it will impact the marina revenue.
Well, and the marina was built about 30% overpiled. So according to our assessment, yes, we are still safe. There are some pile that need to be replaced, and there are some that were never installed. So I feel like rather than me reading this, I would give this, Scotty, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I mean, you said it right on track. We're about 30% of our piles. We do have a bunch of pile that needs to be removed for safety conditions. We do have some that we moved off of those slips because when the wintertime comes, we get some heavy winds and we don't, with a bad pile and 2 big boats on that finger, we just don't want it to break off. So we moved them. We put one out here in Guest Moorage and we had an empty slip. We moved another one. And, you know, that's part of our mitigation that we're going to be looking at down the road when we're going to do our dredging, but we still have to do our mitigation for our dredging. So when that part comes, we're going to hopefully remove our creosote pilings and things like that for our mitigation to make up those points. So thank you.
Okay. Question 3, status of consultant reports from city funded studies. The Holmes Group is now in their 4th study. We cannot recall having seen an out briefing on report from the 3rd study. Did we miss it? When will the report from this current study be reported out? I can answer this one. We got these questions yesterday.
Yeah.
We're reaching out to the city manager. We didn't have an answer for you today, but we will get you one back at a later time.
Yeah, to be totally honest, I don't believe that the council has seen anything that you haven't seen. But we are committed to following up and seeing what we can find out for the answer to that.
And Scott, I'm going to let you answer this one. The Wagoner study is now in their second study. When will they report out to the council? DMMA would like to be a pre-briefing so tenants can have an opportunity to comment to the council on the report.
Sure, I'm expecting the draft back, before the end of this year, and then Michael and Dan will be looking at that, and then I'm sure it'll be shared with the DMMA before it's shared with the public or anybody else for their input and interjections.
One of the things I want to point out, though, that makes it a little bit of a challenge is that normally the staff gets a report, they look at it, and then they share it, with the council for policy reasons, and the DMMA would receive that likely around the same time.
Correct.
So, but we do understand that the Des Moines Marina Association definitely wants to be a player here. So we will do what we can to make sure that you're involved in the discussions.
Yes.
Marina development study, next question, I'm sorry. Marina development study sessions at the council. When the city holds a study session on marina development, we ask that DMMA participate with a seat at the table. It seems that without us joining, you miss current tenants' thoughts and comments in the ongoing discussion.
And again, we're talking about a protocol in a work study session. What I can say is, oftentimes we have public comment in the front of that, and I would definitely move that because we all have to see the same information before we can have even a conversation. So I'm definitely, going to work with the agendas, work with the city administration. We're going to make sure that DMMA is a welcome participant in those study sessions. What that looks like right now, I can't commit to because I just don't know at this point.
Question 6. Can the marina increase the number of security cameras in the parking lot and other marina areas? The entrances are covered, but the middle sections are not. In addition, current dock cameras only cover the immediate area around the dock gates, but there is no view all the way down the docks. This leaves a gap in security monitoring capability. Want to defer to Scott on this, even though we like doing this to you, Scott.
That's all good. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thought you were getting out.
No, it's all good. No, we do have new cameras that are on the kiosks in the north parking lot that shine out over towards the fishing pier and some of the parking areas. We have cameras on the south restroom that shines in the parking lot and some areas there. More cameras would be great. I would love to have more cameras on all the docks and different things. You know, sometimes though it's hard. You see somebody doing something, and that's what you see. You see someone. It's hard to get a good face, a good whatever, things like that. But we've found a lot of things, and we're getting better at it. But we also need to remember some of our thefts, and we've proven it. They come in by boat, they pull into a spot, and then they'll do their thing, and then they leave by boat. So some of that's hard. But no, cameras, we're all over cameras. Cameras are getting better, where I can watch now cameras at Redondo on my phone. So moving forward, I would love to have more cameras. So that's something I'm on board with. Please. Thank you.
And I can honestly say that we continually work to find new ways to enhance the security of not only the marina, our streets, and everything else. So as as technology evolves, as it becomes more affordable, the challenge for us is not just finding a camera and putting it in place. It's finding the right technology in the right place. And cameras, they record what happened. They don't necessarily stop it, although sometimes they are considered a good deterrent, but in other times there are, boy, if you're on nextdoor.com, you'll see a lot of people don't even care. They almost wave at the camera while they take the box off the front porch. So anyway, we're constantly looking at our security in all levels. And I know Harbor Master Wilkins is very mindful of that. And definitely, we're happy to hear the ideas and see what we can do to make, to improve the situation all the time.
All right, question 7. Can the marina operations keep security videos for a longer period of time so victims of theft and police can view them? Not all boaters visit their boats on a daily basis. If there is a theft, it might not be noticed for a few days or even weeks and months. This happened for several boaters who lost motors, downriggers, and expensive fishing, crabbing equipment. The videos were no longer available.
Yes, with our current cameras and stuff, the server we have, I think it holds them for, I believe it's 7 days. So if we can get all new cameras and get some better quality cameras that can really pick things up, I think we can find better storage for that and everything else. But I also want to encourage people to come down. Your boat is a significant investment. You should come down once a week or talk to your neighbor and talk to them about your boat, because that is also hard. If you're not down for a month or so, trying to find 24 hours a day of surveillance tape over 30 days or 60 days to have somebody sit down and try to find that one little incident, that's tough. So I do really encourage people to come down and check on their boat or have their neighbor check on their boat too. But yes, I think, new cameras, sending them to the cloud or a better server where we can actually hold some data a little longer would be nice.
Question 8. Adding internet access across the marina, not just at guest moorage, would enable a variety of capabilities for tenants to take care of their boats. For instance, placement of a tenant's own security equipment camera on their boats.
Before our harbor master jumps in, I just want to say there's a variety of options to look at. And I know that he is working with our IT staff to investigate and look at different solutions. The hard part is finding the right solution, because if you do find, if you do put in internet access, how secured is it? Are these encrypted transmissions? What exactly do you need to come across to make this work? Because in some cases, those networks can work against you if someone is reasonably skilled at hacking or just gaining access to being able to look at cameras on people's boats to see what they have. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation. So it's not just about finding a way to create internet access down there, but is it, how do you provide access to the boat owners, and is it through a secure tunnel? is it, you know, there's a lot there. So, and each thing comes with its own price tag. And how that gets paid for again is, I think the solution is in the discussion about, you know, first of all, we have to know what the options are and kind of what the requirements are, and then figuring out how to cover the cost for that.
Anything to add, Scott, before I move on?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so question 9, there's an open area above of most dock doors that can be breached by merely climbing the chain link door. Can this be closed off with additional chain link material? I'm going to give that to you, Scott.
Yes, thank you. They definitely can be closed off, and it should be closed off for the safety of everybody. But we're also looking at, I have Jonathan looking at pricing out plexiglass to install on those wings, because right now people, they have, you know, wrap your hand around it, put your fingers in the holes and kind of stepped around. So if we can put some plexiglass on those wing walls where nobody can get their fingers in that mesh. So we're looking at that. And that's, I got a big X on that one for you, because I agree totally with you.
Thank you. Question 10, following a variety of tenant comments on the Marina parking system expressing a strong preference for gate control access, is there now funding in the 2021 budget to improve, strengthen the current system? Basically, parentheses, no pay and display approach. Is that correct? And I'm going to give that one to you, Matt, our mayor.
Yeah, I mean, the council hasn't necessarily voted on this, but the consensus on the council is we like the gate systems. The community has communicated in a huge way that they like the gate systems and the benefits that come with it. We also, you know, are looking at, it would really be nice if the system that we're at the Marina were a gate system, and that same gate system were at, you know, functioning at the Redondo parking lot. There's a lot behind that, and there are some, you know, costs that we have to figure out. Primarily, you know, I'm going to let Harbor Master Wilkins, you know, explain kind of some of the complications and the challenges we're having with the gate system that's at the Marina, that's down at the Marina, because I mean, the preferences that I have heard from the council though have been around gated control in both the Marina and Redondo, and hopefully something that ties back to the same system. So the annual cards and things like that would work in both locations. Scotty, you got anything to add to that?
You bet. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. And yes, we are looking at new gated systems. That's where I'm looking at right presently. We had some quotes for some equipment that we've reached back out to ask them to kind of tighten up their quotes, because they were over a year past now. We've learned over the last 3 years what doesn't work. These machines that we have now, they were primarily in kind of an indoor situation. In the outdoor situation, our tickets get wet. There's glares on the screen. There's the credit card acceptors are kind of different. Most people have never seen them before. So there's a lot of logistics that way that we know what does not work. And so that's where we're really hitting it hard for what we're going to ask in the future. And we know what will work. And also to reiterate, you're absolutely right. Putting in that same system down at Redondo, letting people purchase a card that'll access both parking lots, you know, and things like that. It'll just work out and be beneficial for the whole community.
All right, question 11. Last 2 questions. Regardless of what changes are being considered in the Marina development, the reserve for tenants parking areas should remain clearly marked in close proximity to the docks for loading and unloading supplies, not reduced in number, and have enforcement to ensure they are preserved for tenants.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, thought that was pretty definitive, Scott.
Yeah, totally agree.
Question.
Well, and Matt, Deputy Mayor Mahoney, the 12th question is quite long, but the bottom line is it gets down to asking for additional no wake signs, and the harbor master, you know, is looking into this, and he's going to investigate adding those two requested signs. I mean, nobody wants people blowing through there in a no wake zone. Scotty, you want to add anything into that?
No, I totally agree. We have them, like I say, we have them coming in on both sides on the, as you're coming into the marina on the wing wall, and we have it on the rock wall. We have it as you're leaving, but I agree. I think we maybe be able to get something out, maybe underneath the fishing pier or out on the opposite side of the jetty, just to get those people before they get around the corner.
All right.
So it's this is the first time we've done this particular slide deck, but you know, and we did cover more than just the marina itself, and there may be topics that we didn't cover, but the main thing is we are happy to always be a partner to share with you what we know is going on, and what we don't know, we're also happy to tell you to what extent we, you know, what we do know about that subject, even though it's in some cases no more than you. We always appreciate the suggestions from individuals because there's a lot of experience in the city. There are a lot of people that have lived here a long time, utilize the city in different ways, and there's some wisdom that has come with that. Or they bring their knowledge from other places. So we're always very appreciative and happy to have these discussions, and we hope that you found this presentation valuable.
Yeah, hey, so thanks so much for doing this. And I know it's been a really hard year across the board as far as getting communications out. And but we appreciate being maybe first on your tour here with this set of data, and we appreciate you answering the questions. Maybe can we just take 1 minute and see if anybody's got a burning question out there that didn't get asked and wants to venture forward with it at this point?
I'm listening. It's your meeting.
I think we're good to go. I think we did a pretty good job of pulling some of those questions together that showed up in the survey when we were out talking to people about the parking area and that. So I appreciate you stepping through those and giving us some responses to it. And then we'll look forward to staying in touch and hopefully get into next year and gain some of that momentum back. You know, I think everybody's enthused about the marina development, the water side and the land side. And there's a lot of opportunity there. And the tenants certainly want to participate, as you can tell. So thanks again, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and the other
pleasure
members here. With that, we'll sign off. Thanks so much.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
I was going to call in, but probably Scott here, he can probably tell me. I know that we're going to start the dredging and we can't get out of the marina, but can we get to the fuel dock or the pump out?
Yes, that'll all be open. And you know, we might be able to get people out. I just don't want to say that just in case, because I don't want to slow down the contractor. But the fuel dock and everything will be open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I want to wish everybody, as is early, I want to wish everybody a great Veterans Day, but also, I don't know if I'll see you because of the way things are today. So I wish everybody all the best of the Thanksgiving holidays and you know, the holidays, the Christmas and other holidays that are coming forward in December. I really, really do appreciate the partnership with the Des Moines Marina Association, as I know my colleagues do as well. And your input has been invaluable through a number of decisions that we've had to make. And I look forward to these continued discussions.
Thanks again.
And we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both.
Have a good
Take
evening.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.